Hello and welcome to Don't Feed the Geeks, presented by the Long Island Comic Guys, the masters of the geeky verse. Well, welcome back, Geek Freaks. I am TC, joined as always by JJ.
What up? How are you guys?
And Toy Story.
What's up, guys? I see the tiny hands are back.
Tiny hands.
Man. Craziness ensuing as always, guys.
Yeah.
We have an awesome episode for you today, guys. We have Austin Reece from Reese's Rare Comics joining us. Great interview, amazing insight on the industry. Hearing about their process was just really cool to us. We hope you guys enjoyed it as well. But before we get into that, as always, we're going to do the Geek Beat.
Yes, we are. So we're going to start out with, I think, the picture that everybody's seen traveling through Instagram. So Natalie Portman, as we know, is going to play Jane Foster again in Thor: Love and Thunder. This picture came out of her on set, like totally jacked.
Yeah.
Is that real? Is that her?
Yeah. Pretty sure.
Like that's not prosthetics, right?
That didn't look like prosthetics.
I was hoping it would be, though, because it's scary.
She's going to beat somebody up.
Be muscly, you know?
Yeah.
It's scary looking. Like I want to know what did she do to get to what that process was to get to that point? Like
sure,
was she
the
scarfing?
boys were doing.
That's
No, she's
scary.
probably eating more. She probably had to put on pounds, so she's probably eating like crazy, lifting like crazy.
Scary looking.
I could only imagine, what Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth had to do to get in that type of shape.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, she's muscly in the comics, so she's got to,
Yeah, she looks great for the character she's playing. I was actually a little bit concerned when they first, announced her. I was like, I'm sure she'll put some muscle on, but this is more than I expected. She
it's scary
looks perfect for the part now. I'll be honest with you.
No, I'm excited for the movie. Really excited.
There's a lot going on with that. I know we probably should shift gears on that scene that we've talked about, the Thor, but there was also an updated cast change to Thor, Melissa McCarthy.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't hear about that.
Spotted on set.
So
what's that?
She was spotted on set.
She was spotted on set, yeah. So
along with her husband, what's his name, Ben Falcone or something? The guy who's in all the movies with her.
I like that guy. He was in S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
I think so.
Is it the same
He's
guy?
in a lot of stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think I have so I think you're going to see that play again. So if you look on IMDb, so it's like Matt Damon's back as actor Loki.
Yep.
She's going to be actor Hela, which is playing the Kate Blanchett character.
Yep.
That's
funny. And Sam Neill's back too. Oh, Sif is back in it. Jamie Alexander. I love her. I've been so bummed that she hasn't been in it since I think she was on that episode of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, she was on one episode. I love her.
Yeah, she's great.
That's great. Yeah, Melissa McCarthy. We'll see.
All right, moving on. JJ, do you want to talk about this Bad Idea Comics thing?
So Bad Idea Comics. They just released a book last week. I'm going to tear it up. ENIAC 1. So I don't know anything about this book. I know it's supposed to take place, World War II, atomic bomb, first computer. I don't know much about it, but the issue, not an issue, but I guess this was not distributed by Diamond. They did it through their own distribution to do this. But the problem is they're enforcing a lot of rules on their comic book. So especially this one here. There was a big to-do with this. The day that this was released, the very first person that bought this book got a pin, a very ultra limited edition pin. It was only given out to one. It was a gold pin. I mean, they're selling on eBay from anywhere from $500 to $900 for this pin.
So wait, the first person at each shop got
each
a pin?
Shop, yes,
okay.
Each shop or selected shops. I don't know how many actually got out there. So it was one pin per store, and people were camping out for this thing. But the thing, I guess people are a little annoyed about was that the rules that this company did. So the rules that they're enforcing was, they're not allowed to increase the comic book price for the first 30 days, which is, I don't know, does people do that?
But that's the shops. They can't enforce it to people selling in the secondary market.
Not in the secondary. This is just the shops. Yeah, they can't because, and then with the other, there's no digital of this. There will never be a digital apparently. And then it's one copy per person in the store. So apparently one comic book shop has already been, their distribution rights have been taken away
Canceled.
canceled from this company. So somebody, I guess, ratted out this comic book shop that was selling multiple copies.
Nuts.
And
somebody who clearly didn't get one.
Right. But yeah, these books, it's hot. I mean, they're selling for a couple $100 now.
Wow.
I'd like to read it, but there's no digital, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, it won't last.
But yeah, that was it on that one.
Nice.
Interesting. That's an interesting story, though.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we have a new Top Gun trailer, right? But not really new.
Well, not Top Gun exactly, but
So I'm not sure if you guys seen it yet, but
no.
you know,
I watched it after you sent it.
these guys, not Lego affiliated, but they're just Lego enthusiasts, and they created this trailer for Top Gun 2, the Maverick movie, all done in Legos, and it's scene by scene. It's dead on perfect from the real trailer, and you know we'll post the link in the comments. But if you haven't seen this, it's absolutely amazing. To see it, you know, just as the trailer itself is amazing, but then there's videos up there with, you know, the actual split screen from the real trailer to the Lego trailer, and it's amazing to see, you know, what these guys did with Legos to get a trailer scene by scene.
They probably did it too because they linked up the voices, right?
They did. They linked up so it's, you know, every single, you know, if somebody blinked in the trailer, you know, if the Lego blinked, like every single movement was precise and perfect. And I guess a couple days later, you know, Paramount got wind of this and saw it, and they were giving these guys kudos and retweeting and everything else. And it's pretty cool to check this thing out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out. I'll do that after we're done.
Yeah, you have to. It's really impressive.
Send me the link too.
All right, next up, we have Star Wars Daisy Ridley apparently has expressed interest in playing Spider-Woman for Marvel. And by the silence, I'm guessing that we're not too into that idea, guys.
No, listen, nothing against her. I don't know her as a person. I don't think she's a terrible actress. Like, I don't consider her in like the Hayden Christensen or whatever his name is category. It's just like nothing. She's very like blah, very vanilla. Like, I don't get anything from her. I don't think she can pull off the personality of a character like that. Like, if you want to tell me there's characters who are kind of vanilla that she could do, hey, if she wants to be Squirrel Girl, great, she can be Squirrel Girl. Like, there's a very like sexy, sarcastic likeness about, you know, Jessica Drew, and I just don't feel like she has that. Like, there's so many other people I think would do a great job on it, and she's just not one of them.
You know, I feel that she's been stuck in the Star Wars world. I know she's only done 3 episodes, and you know, she hasn't done anything else. I know she's got a new movie out with Tom Holland. I think,
she's done a few things here and there, but like nothing notable. I mean, and from what I've heard, that movie's awful.
Yeah, I just don't think she's ready for this type of part. I mean, she's not a superhero look to her.
I guess she wants to distance herself from Star Wars, though.
Yeah, but how much distance is this really, though? Like, yeah, she's jumping to Sony, and I'm sure she's doing that because her relationship with Disney or Marvel or Marvel, whatever, is kind of like a little bit, you know, rocky at this point. Didn't she say some things that they weren't too happy about?
Yeah, they all did.
Listen, like, it's hard to, you're not there. You don't know both sides of it. It's, you know, it can sound like sour grapes when you're complaining about it, but, you know, I mean, maybe they were screwed over. I mean, I'm sure like they changed the story 100 times because, you know, they were given into like, you know, fan pressure, and, you know, I don't know, but from what I saw, like, I wasn't overly impressed by her. And like, we could even get attacked by that, like, oh, she's the greatest thing ever. Like, anytime I say Hayden Christensen's like a terrible actor, like, I'm not saying he's a terrible human being and we should like string him up and like, you know, torture him. He's just a bad actor. It's okay to say he's a bad actor. It's the truth. I mean, maybe he'll do better in this Obi-Wan thing. I think not. And especially if they have his voice instead of James Earl Jones, I'm going to hate the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing if that's the case. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I might not even watch it. If the first episode's like I hear Hayden Christensen's voice coming out of the Darth Vader suit, I was like, nope.
They're not that. Nope. They're not that
no,
crazy.
They'd be crazy to do that. But I mean, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't mean to sound sour grapes. It's just my opinion.
That's good.
You can like it or not, but I'm right.
We welcome it. All right, next up, a little bit of I mean, I feel like that we have this every day as we talk about with Austin later, a little bit of a comic breaking another record overnight. Ultimate Fallout 4 has officially crossed the 3K barrier in a 9.8.
I think it's crossed it by quite a bit. I think it's like 3250.
Yep.
Or maybe even more. I haven't checked today. It could be even more, but
yeah, it's crazy.
Listen, this is one of the few books where I can honestly see the value in it. And it's not because I have one. It's because this is a major character. He's a modern character. He's a Spider-Man character. Listen, you can argue with us all you want about this. Marvel's number one character is Spider-Man. Any iteration? Is that right?
Iteration.
Iteration, yeah. I always screw that word up on the show. I don't know why. Every iteration of him. And listen, we're getting into a world where people want to see more diversity. So you have a diverse character. He not only hits, African American, but he also hits a Latino. He's an African American Latino Spider-Man. I mean, I don't know what It's
a huge book. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it has there's so many books where I could say I don't see it and I don't think it should be that. This is not one of them, and I don't think this is the end. I'm sure there's a lot out there, but again, you have to realize there's kids who this comic book character, this Miles Morales, is more important to them, especially with this cartoon, than Peter Parker is. This book down the line is going to be as desirable as the AF-15 or the Amazing Spider-Man 1 is to us in like 20 years. I mean, I could easily see this book in a 9.8 being $10,000 book by in 10 years from now. I'm not saying anytime soon, but I mean, if prices go as crazy, maybe sooner, but 10 years from now, I don't see it being a crazy thing for this to be a $10,000 book.
Totally agree with you.
100%.
All right, next one.
So JJ, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, I put this on the list. So there's a comic book. It was an Image comic book, Jupiter Legacy. I have these books. I've never read any of them. It's one of those type of books.
I used to.
Have you read them?
Yeah, when I was working at Best, I pick up all the Image books, and I read quite a bit of them, like the first 20 issues or so. It's a good book for sure.
Yeah. So Netflix announced that they're going to be coming out with a show on this. I saw some of the, they do have a trailer out. There's not much, visually to the trailer. It's more of just symbols and everything else. But I've seen some still pictures, and it looks pretty cool. It's basically, superhero children, they struggle to live up to their parents, their superhero parents. So I think it's kind of, I'm going to put it in that The Boys category. And I think because of how well The Boys have been, that TV show, I think this might be, a hit for Netflix, because I love The Boys, but it's supposed to be the same type of TV show. So we'll see what happens with it. I'm curious. I want to see it. But I've been scoping out the pricing on this book, and I'm not sure if it's a good time to start buying this book. I'm not going to speculate anything, but the prices are pretty low on this book. Seeing that we have a TV show coming out of it, I'm shocked that it hasn't started rising.
JJ, there was another book I saw recently that there was some heat on. I guess I thought you had these. Kanto, do you have any of those?
I have some of those.
There's a lot of heat on those right now.
There was a lot of heat when those came out too.
Yeah. They announced, I think it's one of the studios is working on an animated feature for it.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of them. I think I have one or two. I know issue 1 was that was hard to get. Even when I went to Midtown, they didn't even have them first thing in the morning. It was crazy.
Yeah, it seems like the number one in raw conditions, over $100 now.
Yeah. But I'm surprised that you're saying $100 for that book. It hasn't done a lot of movement. Maybe after the show comes out. We'll see.
It's hard to. I feel like the animated stuff, when you hear animated features, it tends to not move the needle as much. Mm-hmm. I feel the only exception to that has been the Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah. For animated stuff, everything else is kind of falls by the wayside.
But I'm going to keep my eye on this Jupiter book because it's curious, because I know Midtown Comics, they had their own variant cover. So and they're still on the shelves at Midtown. It's crazy when I was there a couple weeks ago.
Interesting.
We'll see.
Good stuff. All right, last up, there's a new Star Trek film from J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot in development, and apparently it's coming to Paramount Plus. I don't know if it's going to be in theaters. They didn't say. But yeah, another one, a fourth one.
Is this a movie or a show?
Movie.
And it's the same cast, or?
I believe so, yeah. It's because JJ did all the other ones too.
How many of the? So wait, there was three.
Three, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I didn't see the third one then. What was the third one about?
Third one wasn't it with that weird chick with the black makeup on her face?
I don't remember. I didn't see that one. I saw the first two.
Yeah, I did like them. I thought they were well done. It's just I'm watching Star Trek: The Next Generation now. It's just not that. It's like they almost, because the technology's so good now, like they try to almost make it as much action as Star Wars is, and they lose some of that. What is it that you love, Toy Story? It loses some of that exposition.
The original Star Trek has a lot of exposition. I know.
Star Trek. The original one does. The original Star Trek is very campy to a certain degree. I mean, I'm in season 2 now, like probably like 5 or 6 episodes in. It's just such a good show. It's just so well done. I can't give them enough kudos for that. That's awesome. I know like we've had the Star Trek versus Star Wars debate, and I feel like Star Wars is amazing. There's no arguing that, but Star Trek just has so much content, and it's just so good. I mean, Star Wars I think will eventually catch up, but I also think Star Trek is more geared towards like the adult viewer than it is towards like the younger viewers. Like Star Wars like catches your attention. Star Trek, even like my daughter was watching some of the episodes with me. She's like, and she was like fascinated by like Data. She's like, oh, who's this guy? Why does he look like that? I was like, oh, well, he's a robot. She's like, oh, but like they get into these like soliloquies. I mean, it's like almost watching like theater. I mean, you have Patrick Stewart, a legendary theater actor, and you know his performance, like he puts like a theater performance into everyone. It's just the acting's phenomenal, but it's just like, you know, it's heavy-handed stuff a lot of times, but it's really well done.
So it was Star Trek Beyond was the last one. It was Star Trek.
I eventually watched that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's unfortunate because you know I've seen these movies a few times, but they're not, you know, they don't stick in my memory for some strange reason. Yeah, and it's just, and that's like that with all the Star Trek movies. Like they're great. I like watching them, but they're not memorable to me.
The original ones? Oh, I can't. I remember everyone back and forth. I'm probably in like the 1 to 5% who like Star Trek the motion picture. I freaking love that movie. And it's like so weird. I mean, Wrath of Khan, obviously the best, but all right, that's it for the Geek Beat. We've gone into a Star Trek diatribe. All right. So next you're going to be hearing and seeing our interview with Austin Reece of Reese's Rare Comics.
All right, everyone. We are very excited to welcome today's guest. We have Austin Reece of Reese's Rare Comics with us. Welcome, Austin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Nice. It's all that.
Welcome.
I like the quarantine beard.
Yeah, it's great.
You know what? When you work for yourself and we don't have to do conventions, it's kind of just whatever goes. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
How's the quarantine been treating you over the last year? Crazy.
You know, just like everyone else, I'm sure a lot of ups and downs. I think, you know, I went through the phase of like, oh my God, I can't wait for this to be over. And then I was kind of content with it. And now I'm fully back into being like, I cannot wait for this to be over. So, yeah, I'm ready for it to be done, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
All right, so we like to start off by getting our guest's origin story. So if you could give us like a little bit of background about how you got into comics, collectibles, anything in the geek world, whether it was when you were a kid or when you were older.
Sure.
Yeah,
so actually, I'm sure a few people have heard this, but my dad actually started what is Reese's Rare Comics. It actually started under the name Greg Reese's Rare Comics. He actually had a store all the way back in 1993. For those who were around back then, that was pretty much the worst time to open a comic shop. That is when the comic market crashed. So my first memories, you know, I was young back then. I was growing up in the back of the store. You know, really comics didn't get them through a couple of those years. It was Pokemon cards. It was Beanie Babies. It was sports cards. It was pretty much everything except comics. So I remember being in the comic shop and, you know, kids in my class were like, oh, that's so cool. Your dad owns the comic shop. But I was in the back looking for Cal Ripken cards, you know? So that's kind of the introduction. And then kind of as I got older, you know, he only had the store for a few years before he had to get rid of it. He had 4 kids, so it just wasn't paying the bills. Fast forward like 15 years later, and he gets a call from a buddy of his that says, hey, man, you still do comics? And it turns out to be like a 40,000 book collection. So at the time, my dad just says, hey, I can do this part-time. I'll go to some weekend gigs, you know, save some extra money for retirement, blah, blah, blah. Well, within like a year or two, he realized I can do this full-time. I can quit my job. do this all 24/7. And so that's what he did. He built a website, got on board. And at the time, we only did the local 1 or 2 day shows. We'd go to the Baltimore Comic-Con. And I started doing that when I was in, I think, 9th grade in high school. So I would go help him out. He'd give me, $100, $200 for doing the weekend or whatever. And we would set up there. And then it got to the point where, my older brother, Alex, was graduating college and my dad had grown the business. And he was like, I need someone full time. And so Alex joined the business. And then a few years later, I was graduating school and, he had kind of thrown it out to me. Hey, if you want to join the business, it's up to you. But we could certainly use the help. So that was about 5 years ago when I joined on full time, but it kind of, been dabbling in it throughout the last 10 years or so.
Wow.
That's awesome. Is your dad still involved at all?
Yeah. So as of about 2 years ago, he actually moved down to Florida. Alex and I are based in Maryland. So my dad's always going to be a part of it. He started it. It's kind of his baby, so to speak. But as far as, answering the Instagram messages and the day-to-day emails and packing books and scanning stuff, that's all Alex and I. We really, I would say we're kind of the gears of the operation. And my dad's always kind of the big picture kind of guy. What can we do next? What kind of markets can we get into? All that kind of stuff. So I like to think we all really have our own specialty and we work really well together. But anymore, I would say, if you call or email us, it's Alex and I doing the day-to-day. And my dad is kind of looking at everything, from the 30,000-foot view.
Nice.
It's funny, I have your card here that I've gotten so many times with all my orders. It looks like a completely different guy in this picture.
Yeah, I think a little bit less facial hair and a few less pounds, right?
We're all guilty of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've been meaning to update those a little bit. So yeah, you got to hold on to that. That's a first print.
That's a class.
So is there anybody else involved with you guys? Is it just pretty much family, or do you guys have other people helping you?
Yeah, so it's always been a family business. My stepmom, Ginger, has always been involved as well. If you guys see us at the shows, it's us four up on the sign, all that. Some of my brothers have helped in for a show or two here and there. But for the most part, for the past 10 years, it's just been us. It's really tough to hire anyone because, you really have to trust any employee that you hire. But when it's a family business, it's almost like you're adding them to your family. We literally spend every day together. When we're on the road, we are in the same hotel room. So it's just a big trust factor. So it's not the same as just going out and being like, hey man, come on board. So as of right now, it's just been a small family business. Like I said, it's Alex and I on the day to day. My dad and my stepmom, Ginger, come back and help out, a few months in the year. So really just a small family business.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys, even though it's a small family business, it definitely has a wide umbrella of touch there. I think anyone in the comic industry would know the name right away once you say it. And I mean, you don't even have to say the same thing. You just say Reese's, and the only other thing people are going to think of is candy. So.
No, I appreciate that, man. That's kind of always been the goal for us. I think when my dad got back into starting the business again, he really noticed there was a lack of really professional looking websites and a professional brand that had, spot on, hands-on customer service. And I think we've kind of just always had that touch. We want that personal touch. It's not just a business transaction for us. We like building relationships with our customers. I've known guys since I was 13 years old that still buy books from us. So it's always been about that. And I do appreciate that you guys have taken notice. And I know a lot of people on Instagram just think my name is Reese. So I am Austin to all of you people.
So I was scoping out your website last night. And what I love about your website, it's real simple to navigate. Oh yeah, it's very direct and you don't get lost on it.
Can't say the same for most other places.
Yeah. I like the section where, if I want to see first appearances, then, you've got that section and the pedigrees and all that. So kudos to you guys to have a nice, clean website.
Thank you very much, man. It was definitely a big undertaking. I think we launched that 2.5 years ago, which was a big update from our original website. Anybody in that world knows that it's a lot of work. And when you deal with the kind of stuff that we deal with, it's even more work. And when we wanted to add some of the custom features, make an offer feature, a want list feature, that stuff isn't just plug and play. You do have to actually spend some time doing it. And you also have to know what you guys are looking for, what, comic customers want. And so I always try to cater to if I were buying this comic book, what's the easiest way to find it? And how can we present that in a really clear cut way? So always trying to work on it. And I appreciate you taking notice.
Yeah, and and again, you keep it simple, and because some of these sites you go on, especially comic books, you get frustrated. And like I said, when yours is so clean and direct and everything else, and keep it simple, and everybody's happy.
Hey, thank you very much, man. Yeah,
Cool.
We've always prided ourselves on that, and a lot of people, it's like as simple as I just want to see the book, right? Like how many sites do we see where you can't even see the back cover? Right. It's just something where, as a buyer, I just always implemented all the features that I always wanted, out of a website. So, not to say that we have 100% all the stuff in there that we would have wanted. I think that would have probably cost us way too much money, but we're certainly happy with where it's at right now, and always looking to improve.
Yeah, keep ads off of there.
Yeah, no.
Close it all up.
It's okay. No one's offered me any anyway, so no problem.
So you've mentioned that you guys spend a lot of time on the road. I mean, this is going to be probably a pre-COVID question, but how many shows do you guys, typically do in a year?
Yeah, so anymore, it really depends, but we're kind of in the realm of like 12 to 15 shows, depending on the schedule. A lot of these shows anymore are, scheduling on the same weekend. Some of them are in Seattle, some of them are in Chicago. So like I mentioned earlier, we only have kind of the 2 to 4 person crew. So that's kind of, the number there is about 12 to 15. And we kind of hit the big ones, New York Comic Con, C2E2 in Chicago. We do Emerald City. We do WonderCon. We do San Diego. We go to MegaCon in Florida. So we really try and hit a whole bunch of different parts of the country, but just try and do like their mega show that they have in the state.
And do you drive to all of them? You guys?
I was just going to answer that.
Yeah, pretty much everything that's not on the West Coast we drive to, although we have driven to San Diego twice. From Maryland, which is a lovely 4-day drive. And, it's me and my brother, so nothing could go wrong. A lot of friendly conversation, but, you do that. And it actually, I joke, but it's fun. We do 4 days out, and I always joke that the first 2 days, we're talking, everything's going on. And then by the end of like the 4th day, we're like, hey, did you see that? And he's like, yeah. Like we've been together the whole time, so all the same experiences.
On the same wavelength.
But I bet you the trip on the way back is even better, right? I mean,
last time I convinced him to do it in 3 days because he was like, "Oh, we're gonna do it in 4. We're gonna, even though that's taking our time, which is like 12 hours a day." I was like, "No, we can make it." So we drove from Texas all the way to Maryland in like 18 hours in one night because we had been on the road for I think 15 straight days. And I missed my girlfriend, and he missed his wife. So we were ready to get home.
So that must be pretty nerve-wracking. So you're driving these big books, like in a car, in a truck, or whatever, and it's got to be nerve-wracking to not be in an accident and losing all that huge investment. I mean.
Sure. I mean, you got to, deal with collectibles insurance and all that. But at the end of the day, I would rather drive them myself than trust them through any other transport. Yeah. So I know what you're saying. It is nerve wracking, but it's the least nerve wracking option, in my opinion.
I can see that for sure.
Do you guys have a favorite show that you do?
Oh, it's hard to say. I think every one of them kind of has its own little thing because you're in a different city. So it's like we like a restaurant here. Or some of them we have friends that aren't in the comic world that we see. But to actually give you an answer, I'd say C2E2 is a great show because it's kind of in the middle of the country. We get guys from the West Coast. We get guys that come out from the East Coast. We got guys that come down from Canada. So it's really just like a good middle ground for seeing as many of our customers as possible. Plus, the food is incredible.
Yeah, I've always heard good things about the C2E2. I think we've actually probably seen you in multiple states too, because we about 2 years ago we went to the Baltimore Con too, and we love that show too because it's very much a comic collector show more than some of these other shows which are catered towards like cosplay and like a lot of advertising. So we really do love that show as well.
Yeah, and that's the one I tell people, when I'm doing these shows and they say, hey, what else should I go to? I always tell them to check out either Baltimore Comic Con or Heroes Con, because if they're coming to see me, then they're coming to see books. Yeah. And those, to me, are the two shows that have the most selection. And really, the Baltimore last year, we had 3 Men in the Basement podcast out there. You guys are out there. So it's kind of like the Instagram fan, community. It's like really tight knit. You can meet a lot of people in the same weekend. And, there's just a lot of great stuff there too.
That's cool.
I do remember, I don't know if it was you or your brother, you did some pretty funny Instagram live videos from some of the road trips that you guys have done. Those are pretty enjoyable and entertaining to watch.
Yeah, like I said, man, you spend enough time in the van, you're just kind of looking for things to do. So yeah, we try and have fun with it. And, Instagram's been great for us. And we certainly appreciate all you guys who are watching and, who've interacted with us over the years. It's been a real game changer. So yeah, man, it's been a blast.
Especially the last year, I'm sure, when you haven't been able to do any shows. Nobody's been able to go to any.
Yeah, it's the internet sales have been wild. I brought this up in a newsletter I sent like 2 weeks ago, but I remember, it was it was a year ago last week. We actually posted on our Instagram and we sent out a newsletter saying that we were pulling out from Emerald City Comic-Con. And, most people were pretty cool about it. I did get some backlash, but you have to remember, it was right at the beginning. No one really knew what was going on. But we knew that there were cases popping up in Seattle, and we were just kind of looking out for our family and for ourselves. And looking back on that time, I remember that first week, it was like a spigot turned off because we did no online sales. I had 0 orders one day where we had had a streak of 3 years where we did a minimum of 1 order. And it was just wild to be like, what is this next year going to be like? And, a full year later, we look back and obviously, we're seeing record-breaking prices on some of these keys. And, it seems like every book has, a new high for a 90-day average. So, it's really been completely black and white as far as how the year, began and where we're at right now.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys about this specifically. So we've noticed, I'm sure you've seen it as well, a lot of people doing these kind of virtual sales and online sales. We noticed that you guys kind of steered clear of that. Was there any reasoning why you guys didn't kind of jump in the pool there?
Yeah, I don't really have any one specific reason other than I don't have enough time in the day to get everything done. So it's certainly something that we considered, especially in the beginning. But as things moved on, we've kind of always just been we don't really do the auction kind of thing. We don't really do, the live sales is new, and I'm not saying I won't do it, but at the time it didn't make sense. Hopefully as things, slow down, or maybe we can get some more help, that is, an avenue I'd like to explore. I've had a few people reach out and say, hey, you guys would do really well with this. So if you guys are watching or listening to this now and you think we should do it, send me a message. The more people that tell me they want to see us on there, the more I'm willing to do it. So,
well, you definitely have 3 right here.
Yeah, I apprate that, guys.
Don't know my wife would like it.
Yeah, it's just tough. Every single day we're trying to get new material listed on the website, and it feels to me like if I don't put something new on there, I stop giving people a reason to go. So if I'm taking stuff away from there to do in a live sale, it just makes it more difficult to keep, all those avenues moving. Again, I'm not saying I'll never do it. I think we definitely have enough inventory that we could pull out to make it a really successful thing. But, I just need some more time right now.
Yeah, I think you guys were kind of in a unique position because you already had an internet sales store up and going. So to kind of take that stuff and shift it to, a live sale where it's kind of it's probably easier for dealers who just do shows. So
right. No, and I completely get that. There are a lot of people whose only business model is doing eBay and selling at shows. So it's, they lost a big revenue stream, and, we obviously did too, but we've had a website for 12 years where some other guys are trying to start one. And when you have that built-in relationship with customers who you have met at shows, and it's not some random guy who would put books on a website, they know who we are. They've dealt with our family, they can see us on Instagram. Hey, these guys are legit. All that kind of stuff. It does make it easier when they can just go online and see our full catalog.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you do a lot of traveling, you go to a lot of these different cities. How do you guys go about deciding what to take? I mean, you have so much. How do you decide what to take to what show, or do you guys just take everything?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. So when my dad first started the business, he literally brought everything he owned to every show. It was just this is all we have. And obviously over the years, you buy more collections, you kind of select, you do enough business, you start to realize what people are asking for, what your brand is known for. So we're known for, high grade, I think silver and bronze age Marvel and DC books. Obviously we have a ton of Golden Age. We do have some modern stuff, but for the most part, if you come to see us at a show, that's what you're looking for. So when we, get these collections and we're pricing books to bring to a show, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for runs of Silver and Bronze Age Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Daredevil, on the other side, Green Lantern, Batman, Wonder Woman. It's the bread and butter of the comic world. And that's kind of always what we've been known for and what our customers enjoy.
The heavy hitters. Although I have seen quite a few really nice TMNTs that you guys have had over the years. I think that one you had in Baltimore a few years ago was like, what, a 9.6 or something like that?
Yeah, we had a 9.6 signed. I remember that one. It had the 4 head sketches on it. But yeah, that book has a funny way of finding its way to us. We've dealt with a handful of those over the years. I think we have one right now. It seems like we've had like a consistent streak of 5 years where we have at least one in inventory. And I don't hate it. I like that book. So
yeah,
that's awesome. Do you guys, considering how many different places you go and like the revenue streams in different cities, do you guys price differently depending where you're going, or do you guys keep it pretty consistent?
No, it's a great question. And when I get at the shows all the time, people are like, oh, I saw this, cheaper or whatever. It's more expensive here. And the truth is every price for the graded books that are on our website that we bring to the shows, exactly the same. Yeah. I don't have the time to go through and mark up books, and that's what happens. People will come to a show and, a character will get announced overnight and they'll, come up and try and buy them. And I'm like, look, man, I'll sell it to you for, the price that I have it listed at, but, they shot up $50 or $100 overnight. So it's kind of one of those things where the raw books, I think we try and go through maybe every year and pick out stuff and reprice them, because those, if they sit in your inventory for a year, as we've seen, they can shoot $500 to $1,000. You never know. On the graded stuff, because it's listed on our website, it's kind of a more evolving inventory. So we have a much better grasp of kind of like where those books are and what the market price is. So we have like 2 different sections of stuff we bring to a show, and that's like a graded section and then a raw section. And the raw section kind of just stays put. We always like try and add a long box full of new stuff every show. So it's kind of like freshening it up a little bit. And then the graded books is, constantly churning. I'd say every show we do in a normal year, 30 to 50% of our graded books have only been there for 6 months or less.
Oh, wow.
So it's really just a kind of a matter of kind of churn and burn as far as that's concerned.
Now, are these graded books, are these ones that you buy from, a collection, or do you go, get books and then get them graded to add to the collection?
Yeah, a little column A, a little column B. We buy all the time. So again, anyone listening, if you guys have books to sell, could be 1, could be 1,000, please send us a message. We aren't afraid to buy any collections. But yeah, we buy single books. Sometimes it may just be an Avengers 1 someone wants to get out of. And then on the other hand, we constantly are sending books out to CGC. I'd say we probably send out an invoice a week. Because you guys know with different turnaround times, it takes about 2 to 3 to 4 months, depending on the submission tier, to get stuff back. So kind of our goal is if we constantly send it out, then we're constantly getting it back in. So right now, I have like 4 or 5 boxes of stuff I need to get out and go through and actually get listed on the website. But then at the same time, you can't forget that invoice, because then you're going to have a dry spell in the summer. So it really is a fine balance between kind of finding how much you can get listed and how much you can get sent out to CGC.
Sounds like you guys have it down to a science now.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look, I give a lot of credit to my dad there. He definitely, he came up with the bones of the operation. And as I've said, I think we all kind of bring something different. My brother Alex is a really great grader. He deals with a lot of the CGC invoices. I do most of the social media. I revamped a lot of our website. So it's kind of like we all had these different skill sets going into it, as any person would. And when we start kind of letting each other do what we do best, it really adds to like a fluid operation.
Nice.
Awesome.
So I think it's safe to say there's very few keys I feel like that haven't jumped like crazy in the last year.
Yeah, sure.
We'll see every day we see records being broken, like you said, overnight.
Definitely.
Is there anything that's what surprised you the most, I guess, over the last year?
Oh, wow. I guess I would just say the continued explosion of Hulk 181. That's a book that, you can go back 10 years and people would say that book's overpriced. There's thousands of them on the census. And, it's that FF 48 and 49, Giant Size, all of those people, for years and years and years are saying, oh, these are overpriced. They can't possibly go up anymore. And what we've learned is that the demand for these books far outweighs the supply. And I'm not saying that the prices won't come down or they won't plateau, because, we are in a market, these things do happen. But that being said, what we've seen in the last year, to me, shows that there are people that, there's a market for a 1.0 and there's a market for a 9.8, and there's a market for everything in between. And I think there's more of those people out there than I ever could have dreamed of.
Yeah. 100%. That's a great answer. That's probably the best anyone's put it to us so far. And we've had this debate amongst ourselves like so many times. It's just like yeah, there's thousands. Just like you said, there's thousands in the market. But think about that, and just think about how many people are X-Men fans, and then on top of that, how many of those people are Wolverine fans. And then now you're realizing these people are getting older and older. They're getting more money in their pockets, so they want to get into this. They want to get into these larger books. So it's kind of happened with us too.
It's funny when you're insulated in the comic world, you can get really caught up in what other people are saying is rare or not rare. I collect, dabble in sports cards. I've always loved sports cards as a kid. And when you look at what the modern sports cards market has gone through, I don't know how much crossover there is on this show, but if you look up some of these prices for cards that came out 3 years ago, it's like $800-900 for a PSA 10, and there's 23,000 of them on the census. Again, I'm not saying that that's not that market's not in the bubble. I'm not really sure. I think the prices will come down at some point. But my point is that there's enough of a market that they can support 23,000 PSA 10s, where if you look at like a Spider-Man 1 in all grades, there's like, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, maybe 5,000. That's a complete guess. So someone's going to fact check me, but whatever. it's not a very high number. And the fact that, that book for so long, was affordable, depending on where you are. But now we're starting to see some of these price increases that to me have always kind of been, there have always been books that I thought were undervalued or too cheap for what they were. And, Spidey 1 and X-Men 1 and Fantastic Four #1 were all of those. So it's certainly an interesting time to kind of look at the overall market.
It's a bad time to buy if you're a collector.
I would say it's a bad time to start buying if you haven't bought anything else before. But if you own a vintage comic book, then you're doing great.
Yes, that's true. It's funny you mentioned the cards. I was really into the basketball cards for such a long time, and I had gotten out, and like I heard it was like it was just doing so poorly for so many years, and then recently, like just like everything else, it's just exploded. I didn't really see that one coming at all. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's seen, quite the growth in any of the collectible industry. We've seen it with sports cards this year. We've seen it with graded video games. We've seen it with comic books. We've seen it with Magic the Gathering. It's all across the board. So
those cards are insane, Magic the Gathering right now.
Yeah. So, if you try to narrow it down, I think you can kind of get too in the weeds with trying to pinpoint any one reason of why these things are happening. But when you step back and look at, I can think of 5 different things off the top of my head for why these are, gaining popularity and exploding in price. So it's definitely, like I said, it's a good time to be in collectibles. It's certainly a lot of fun, and the people that are buying from us, most of these guys have great collections already. So, these prices are going up, but so is the value of their collection. Now they can trade me something towards a book that I wouldn't have valued the same a year ago.
That's true. That's a good point.
So you brought up the graded video games. How did you? Because I noticed on your website that you do sell those now too. How did you get into the graded video game market?
Yeah, it was kind of a lightning in a bottle situation. It was funny. About 5 years ago, my brother Alex, he brought up the point of, hey, we should really look at some of these sealed video games. And we were kind of like, hey, man, we're really busy. We don't really have a lot of time for all that. And like, how much money is this going to take away from what we can buy with comics and all that kind of stuff and things you have to think about when you run a business. And so we were sitting there, and then about 2 years later, we're at, I think C2E2 maybe was the show, but it was a show in Chicago. And we ended up meeting Dennis Kahn, who was the founder of Wada Games. He was there basically pitching his idea of starting this new grading company. He knew some people that we knew, and we, got to meet him. He showed us his video game collection in his basement. My brother and I had already been collecting video games, not sealed, but complete in box, stuff we grew up with as kids. And we were like, oh my God, this is such a no-brainer. because we saw what happened with the comic market in CGC, and we realized how much that could change the landscape of video games. So pretty much right then and there, like that, I think it was the following year, they had actually formed. Wada was creating games, and there was someone set up there that actually like was selling games. And we bought a sealed Super Mario Bros. And we bought a gloss sticker early print Super Mario Bros. That very first show. So ever since then, it's kind of like just like comics. You just have to dive in and kind of do the homework and find out what you want. But we always were like, we're gamers. We still play games, my brother and I do. So it's like we grew up on Legend of Zelda and Super Smash Bros. And, Mario Kart. So we were like, we're just going to buy the stuff that we liked and hope that everyone else liked it just as much. And that's kind of been the, it's been right, so far. So definitely something we like doing and, want to get more involved in as time goes on.
And so, that's the biggest thing. What you said was like, you guys like doing it. And so like, hopefully other people, and that's the thing, like nostalgia is starting to catch up to like all those different mediums of like what people were into at that time. And it's actually really cool. I mean, it's frustrating for when you want to buy it and get into it. But I mean, the fact that you realize how many other people were into the same thing. When you think about it, it's really cool.
Yeah. And we were talking about this recently, my brother and I, about, there's a new generation that literally has grown up in a digital age. So what is that nostalgia going to be? Are they going to be buying first generation iPhones? Like, are they going to be looking for iPod? Like, we're just spitballing kind of like always off the wall. But, at the same time, it's like, these franchises, video games and comic books have grown into the digital landscape. We have the Spider-Man game on PS4 and PS5, and there's all these like kind of they go across different universes and they live on. So I think that the next generation is going to be just as interested in that kind of stuff as we all are. It might be for different reasons. It might be that someone grew up, and their dad took them to see every Marvel movie and they're nostalgic for that feeling, but they want to get back to the source material and find books that way. So I'm always thinking about things like that and how it's going to affect our market in 10 and 20 years.
That's a great way to look at it. It's really good. Insightfully,
Convention wise, like, so there's two questions I got about conventions. And I guess I'm going to be a doom and gloom kind of person, seeing that I brought up about, driving things across the country and getting in accidents.
Yeah.
So, I've come to a few, like there was one show I went to a couple of years ago and I was standing next to a guy that walked away with a Hulk 1, like from a booth. Like, has that happened to you guys where you guys lost a big book and, what do you do when stuff like that happens?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely an unfortunate part of our business. When you're dealing with books that are worth thousands of dollars, unfortunately, that's going to attract criminals sometimes. I would like to point out that 99.9% of the people we deal with are honest and great people. Some of the coolest people we've gotten to know, but certainly there is that 0.1% that kind of likes to ruin it for everyone. But to answer your question, yeah, we've had stuff stolen from us before. My dad literally caught someone who took a book off of our wall at a show, and he followed him. I'll do a sidebar here. He followed this guy all the way, through the convention center, and he's yelling at him, "Hey, this guy stole my book. This guy stole my book." The guy, goes to the cops, and he was like, "This crazy guy is following me. I've never seen him before. He's harassing me, all this stuff." And so thankfully the cops are smart. They take my dad 20 feet away. They take this other guy 20 feet the other way. And they ask my dad, "Hey, what's the significance of this book? How do you know it's yours? Blah, blah, blah." And my dad's like, "Oh, it was the first appearance of so-and-so. I have a picture of it on my website. Here it is. It has this little stain on the top corner." And meanwhile, the other guy's like, "Yeah, my grandfather gave it to me. I'm just here to sell it at the show." So the cops pretty much quickly figured out, hey, this guy definitely stole it, gave it back to my dad, which is a happy ending. But the sad part is that my dad's like, "I want to prosecute this guy." He clearly, I caught him red-handed. He stole, I don't remember the value of the book, but it was enough at the time that it really impacted our business, and still would to this day, to be honest. But, he wanted to prosecute, and he's talking with this guy in New York, and months go by, and my dad's like, "I don't care if it takes years. Like, I just want, some justice to be served." And basically at the end of the day, the person he's talking to, I don't know, judge or police officer or whoever is assigned to the case, but he basically is like, we deal with rapists, murderers every day. I'm sorry that happened to you, but we just don't have time for it. So, it's discouraging because you're just like, well, they're getting away with this, and what's he going to do next week? And he's going to do the same thing, get a slap on the wrist, or he'll get away. And like I said, it's just an unfortunate part of our business. We try and be really vigilant every time we're at a trade show. That's kind of, the biggest opportunity for theft. But that's why we try and, stay off our phones, stay on your feet, look at everybody. And again, we have customers like you guys who are at our booth in cities across the country, and they're kind of like looking out for you too. So that's a really nice part about, building these relationships and having customers, is that, they want you to come back to their city. They want to support you. They don't want to see you get robbed. It's all, that kind of community thing that we've been talking about, whether it's in person at a show or online on Instagram. That's kind of what we're all here for, is just to help each other out and point each other in the right direction.
I definitely feel like there's more of the good apples than, in anything else. There's always like those one or two bad apples, but that's my favorite thing about this community, is it's really tight knit, and they, people will really come to bat for you if they need you. People who might not have even met you in person will come to bat for you just because, they know your reputation. They know that you would have done right by them. And, it's a great reputation that you guys have built as well.
Thank you, man. I definitely appreciate that. And I would just echo what you said. There's way more good people than bad. Unfortunately, it's always kind of the negative and, hateful people that you deal with that stick out in your head the most. Yeah. But then I always stop myself to remember that the only reason you don't remember all the great people is because you didn't have that negative interaction. So even that's, unfortunate if you stop and take the time to really remember, how many easy, smooth, transactions we have, and not to mention just the nice people, that I get to deal with, and people wishing me, a good weekend or a nice day. And, all the people who post their books that they buy from us on Instagram, like, I really do appreciate that. If it's at 11 p.m. at night, I try and go on there and give it a like and a comment, because, they don't have to do that. And I do want them to know that I notice it, and it really does mean a lot, for even just like that little grassroots thing. We've always tried and just build our brand that way. It's just like, you had a good experience with us. I hope you tell your friend, and hopefully he has a good experience with us, and then he tells other people. And that's kind of how we've grown the whole thing.
That's awesome. So we got one of the bad stories out. What's your craziest fun story?
That's where I was going next.
At a convention.
At a convention?
Not the one you just said.
Oh, man. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, man. There's so many memories of just like weird things happening at conventions. Steve Aoki, like famous DJ, stopped by our booth in New York City Comic-Con like a couple years ago. You kind of cross paths with a lot of celebrities. Like I think I told this on another podcast, but just because it popped in my head. I was at San Diego like 3 years ago, and we're getting ready to break down the booth, and it's always mayhem. There's thousands of people. Like I said, we drove 5 days to get there. We just worked 5 more days, and we have to drive 5 days home. So we want to leave. Like, we're tired and we want to leave. And so like you have to like jump through all these hoops, and like we're getting stuff, and I'm like running to like the back of this convention center. I'm like, we have to find a pallet to get our stuff and get it wrapped like before everyone else, because like, if you don't, like, you're going to be waiting hours to get out of there. So I like shove this door open, and this guy opens it, and I'm like, that looks familiar. It was George R.R. Martin waiting for his limo to take him out of the back. And I literally don't even say a word to him. I was just like, pallet. And I like went and got the pallet, and just like by the like 2 hours later, I'm sitting in the car. I didn't even think to bring it up. I like look at my brother. I'm like, so I saw George R.R. Martin like 2 hours ago. So that was definitely like a funny memory. But like comic book wise, I had a guy a few years ago. Hadn't really messaged him at all. I didn't really know the guy. I guess he found me through Instagram, and he goes, "Hey, I see you're at this show in Chicago. Do you buy books?" I'm like, yeah, I'm here all weekend, blah, blah, blah. This is Instagram. I think the guy's in California or Canada or whatever. And so he's like, I have Spider-Man 1 through 10, all signed by Stan Lee, all graded. What would you pay for these? So I'm like, hey man, like I'm currently at a convention, but here's what I would pay for them. I could get you paid when I get home next week. And he goes, oh, no problem. I'm right down the street. So he walks in the building, comes by the booth, drops off the books. I wrote him a check, and that was that. And like, that was it, man. It was like one of the craziest things ever. We were like, oh my God, it was like a 30-minute transaction where I was like, normally these things take weeks, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2. Like, sometimes like you get like those, wins like that where, you grind so hard for the other stuff, and then something like that falls in your lap, and you're just like, that was amazing.
You gotta take those wins when they come, right?
Yeah, no, certainly. Yeah, it's hard, man.
So you mentioned. Go ahead, JJ.
No, I was just wondering. Do you have any high-profile buyers?
Yeah.
Oh, what are you gonna ask? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No,
same thing.
that's okay. I obviously can't say any names or anything like that, but I'd definitely say there's a few people that have bought from us over the years that have been surprising to me.
Yeah.
Good.
I know that's a not super fun way to say it.
No, that's okay.
There
We've heard from
are
different people. We're surprised sometimes, like who are like the big people in the comic book market. Like we've heard, like obviously Nicolas Cage is probably like one of the most famous ones, but like we were like quietly hearing like Leonardo Dicaprio is another guy who's like really into comics because I guess his dad used to be kind of like a dealer back in the day.
Well, I can safely say I've never met Leo. So,
and then I heard also Freddie Prinze Jr. is another guy who's like a huge collector too. So it's interesting.
Will say, like the one like group of like high status celebrities are a lot of musicians. So I will say that like a lot of, and it kind of makes sense when you start thinking about like the creative type and all that. I've definitely met more musicians that way, and sometimes musicians can kind of fly under the radar too if they're not like the front man, like if they're just like the bassist but still like a band that you're like, oh my, I know that band, like, but you were like, if you put a gun to your head, you're like, I couldn't name their bassist though. So it's stuff like that where you're like, like they could buy my whole booth, but like not the most famous person in the world.
Isn't one of them like Metallica? One of the guys on Metallica is a big comic book.
It's a big comic.
You guys got to find him and send him to my way.
He's a big comic book collector.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, John Dolmayan owns Torpedo Comics, and he kind of is tied into the music world. So I think he has associates or friends or whatever you want to call them that kind of he's pointed in the right direction sometimes as who they should buy books from and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. All right, man. Cool. I think we checked off all the big questions. Do you guys have anything like coming up that you're excited about? Near future?
Pretty much just all the typical plugs. I mean, I always tell people like Tuesday through Friday, if you can get on the website in the afternoon, even for like 5 to 10 minutes to see what we're listing, that's kind of the goal for us, just to always get new material up during the weekdays. Like I said, we're trying to get more and more stuff just every single day.
I never close the website. I just refresh it every day.
I love that. I literally love that. That's my favorite answer ever. So, definitely just stay tuned there. Stay tuned on Instagram if you don't follow us there at Reese's Rare Comics. I always try and post like a book a day of something new. I always try and keep it fresh. Like we posted this within the last 24 hours, or like here's a new collection we got. So we definitely have some exciting things in the works. I can't really talk about all of them right now, but those are kind of the places where you would find out about that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to keep up with us, and like we've been saying, if you guys buy a book from us and post it on Instagram, thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can always send me a DM. And when we do shows again, all of our schedule is posted on our website. So please come see us.
Of course. Awesome. I tried to sell a kidney today to get that new.
I did that for you. There you go.
Right on. Thank you guys, man. I really appreciate it. And please let me know if there's anything I can do for you guys as well.
Thank you, man.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming on with us.
Thank you very much again for joining us, and have a great weekend.
All right. Thanks. Hey, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. You guys have a good weekend too.
All right, too. And we're back. Hey guys, thanks for that. That was an awesome interview. I like this guy. I don't remember talking about any of the shows, but
I think it's because he's in disguise now.
Yeah, for some strange reason, I just remember his dad.
Yeah,
I remember if you had a few New York Comic Cons for sure.
But that was an awesome interview. I mean, those guys are great
from industry people like that, especially someone like that, where they're Reese has been around for such a long time now.
Yeah, he's pretty much grown up in the industry. Mm-hmm. His brother looks a lot like him too, so that might be some of the confusion. They're very similar looking.
And again, like I've talked about, like I was on his website, their website last night, and I started like, all right, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. I already found like 2 Aquaman books I don't have. Like I'm going to buy those. But yeah, it's like I said, guys, if you can check out their website, it's a really cool website. I'm a big fan of their website.
They're always great, and they're always fair. If like you want to like shoot them an offer too, they're willing to make deals. If not outrageous deals, but if you give them a reasonable deal, they're usually willing to do it.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Thanks for him to coming on. It's good stuff. What are we going to talk about next? What are we going to close this episode off with?
We are going to put WandaVision to bed.
Let's just get rid of it.
It's fantastic. We love it. But this is the last time we're going to talk about it.
Right. Thank you. Great. I think the season,
until next season, right?
Yeah.
Is there going to be another season?
Well, the last episode, the title of it was the series finale. So.
Yeah, it's done. So, I mean, listen, it was a great season. Every episode put you on the edge of your seat. It was awesome. I'm actually glad it's over so I can move on to the next one that's coming up. But thoughts, guys, who wants to start it off?
I got to say, and spoiler alert, obviously.
Yes. So if you don't want to know anything about the ending, if you haven't watched it, pause it now. Come back after you watched it.
There you go.
So the first thing I'm going to say is there's been fan theory after fan theory. Who's going to show up? Who's going to be responsible for this, that, the other thing? They were fun, like for sure, like speculating.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
but
go ahead.
I am so happy with that they ended up not bringing someone in.
Did they bring anybody in?
It would have taken away from the story as a whole, I think, and tying up at the end. Like they just focused on WandaVision, which was great. So they didn't, like the Luke Skywalker thing in Mandalorian was awesome, but something like that, I feel like I don't think it did it in Mandalorian, but it could detract from the main story.
You see, and I think what you're saying there, I think that needed something. Like you needed something else to come in and close that story.
Yeah.
Something like I think what you're trying to say is something else coming in would have distracted from this story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think they could have done. See, this was only one season. Doing that whole Skywalker thing on season 2 of The Mandalorian, that worked.
Yeah, totally.
We're already into it. We've already invested one season. We're in season 2. You needed a big giant climax to this to finish, to finish off the season, and that worked. Doing that with something like this, where it's one season and it's kind of just the one story, you're right. It would have ruined it, and it would have like gaping holes everywhere.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Do you think like that a lot of the mixed feelings on this are mainly because people are like upset they didn't get like these big reveals for their books, or
people are upset that they bought books over the last 4 weeks and now they're not,
Sucks to be you. So what are the ones that people are really like? So first of all, Paul Bettany, which is like, so it's funny. I think like whoever one of the creators were is like he started digging himself a really deep hole with this. Like the actor I got to work with was somebody I've always wanted to work with my entire life. It turns out he was referring to himself as the White Vision, like which was awesome. I love that he did. I love that. Like I think that they're starting to pick up on people like doing this and all this spec. And I think they're almost getting tired of it. And they're like, you know what? We're going to throw spec out there. We're going to send them on these different trails. And then we're just going to pull the rug out from under them. It's funny. I think we were talking about this earlier too, is the memes that were coming out. And there was 2 that I loved. The Captain America one where they like from like the second Spider-Man movie where he's like on the TV. It's like, so you had a WandaVision theory, huh? And there was like a couple other ones too that were just great. And then what's the one circulating now where like you just sent it earlier today, Toy Story. Falcon says, "Oh, I know a thing or two," and now everyone's like joke. I think it's been a joke for the most part. Everyone's like, "Oh, is Thing confirmed now?" For it's craziness.
It is the spec. It's fun, the spec, but it gets a little out of hand. I think, especially when it catapults these books overnight.
Yeah. So let's kind of do like a wrap up of all the characters at this point. So we have, we'll do Wanda last. So the kids kind of vanish, right?
Yep.
Done.
So I have heard that this might not be the last we've seen of them, because I think someone said that they were spotted or they are somehow wrapped up in Doctor Strange.
Well, if it follows the comic book, they're going to be reincarnated, to 2 other kids, to 2 other families.
And then we have the guy who plays Quicksilver, Richard Boner.
I mean, Dick Boner.
Yeah, like all this meaninglessness for a DICK joke. It was pretty funny. I was like, are they serious right now? But I guess, what was it? It was Ralph, right? It was Ralph, actually.
Oh, Ralph. Right, Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph. So I was like, oh, man.
But still, that threw me for a loop because I was like, wait a minute, what just happened? Like, this is not him?
And he was like, I was just happy to be there, man. I love these Marvel. And he was like, yeah, of course you do. You probably want to be involved in them in the future. So who else do we got? We have
Rambo, Photon.
Monica,
turns into Photon.
Yeah,
allegedly.
So she definitely has some type of powers. It ends with, and I was expecting it to be, what's his name? Samuel L. Jackson, but it was the girl who plays the Skrull instead. It's like, somebody wants to talk to you. So I'm assuming it's Samuel L. Jackson who's been watching her, wants to talk to her.
Yeah, because she's the one up in space. That was the ending of the last movie, I think I would have liked to have seen him in this. I think that would have been the the big Star Wars, the Luke Skywalker moment, if him just showing his face real quick. But I think I'd like to have seen that.
Or even if they like put him on the movie screen, that would be cool.
Or just on a TV screen or somewhere.
Yeah. And then we have, who's the girl? The other girl, Agatha Harkness. So she just kind of mind wipes her. So I like how they planted her for like maybe later, maybe not. They kind of leave it open-ended with her. So she just basically leaves her in the town as the nosy neighbor. Right. She's like, I'm going to keep you in the role you've been playing.
That's funny.
And then we have Jimmy Choo.
Yep.
Yes.
Jimmy Choo kind of is leading his own team now. I don't know if this is rumor, if it's true. I really would love a Jimmy Choo show.
Oh, absolutely.
It is Jimmy, right? It's Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
Is that yeah. Like that would be awesome. He's just such a fun character. Darcy kind of just like disappeared, faded into nothingness, huh?
Where did she go?
I like that she was back in that. I've always found her very funny.
Yeah, she's always been hysterical.
Yeah.
She's very good. She's the thing about her is like she's very one-liner-ish. Like she's not like she doesn't follow up comedy. Is not like a back and forth a lot. As like we used to watch that show with her, the waitress one, and I told Steph like one day I was watching it. I was like, Steph, this entire show is one-liner jokes. Yep. Like I was watching every single thing. It was like one-liner joke. I was like, and it just ruined it for me after that. But I hope actually her and Jimmy Choo get a show together.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah. And I think that was it, right? Was there anybody we're missing at this point? Wanda, right?
Yeah, Wanda. Just Wanda. She got a cool costume.
And the White Vision.
Super powerful.
Yes. Oh, sorry. White Vision. Why don't you take that first, JJ?
Well, I don't know where to take it. I mean, he was there. The way I look at it, he was there and then he was gone. So, I mean, did Vision give him all? I mean, obviously Vision gave him all his memories and everything else, and then he's gone. Where is he going to end up? It's interesting stuff.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
It's funny how like the entire like Marvel universe right now is so scattered after like this Avengers Endgame. Everyone came together for this big moment, and now like we're getting like pieces of people here and there. It's interesting. Well, I guess we'll find out soon.
So Wanda,
back to Wanda, yeah.
Wanda. So we end with her, in a cabin, which I would love to know where that scene was shot, because it was so beautiful. Like it was amazing that the mountain, like that had to be a real place, I would think, and I would hope so. But I would love to know where that place, because I'd love to visit it.
Yeah.
But she's in a cabin and she's outside, and then her, I don't know, Doctor Strange moment is inside learning spells. Yeah.
So I guess was it her astral form or something else? I don't know.
It opens up a whole bunch of different questions, and it kind of goes back to to the Avenger movies. Like, she may have been the most powerful Avenger there. Seeing she can do a lot of stuff that we didn't know about,
And I do think at one point Agatha tells her that the Scarlet Witch, the name of her actual character, is supposed to be more powerful than like the Sorcerer Supreme too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. So she's might be more powerful than Doctor Strange.
I mean, I feel like she definitely is. I think we're gonna see how like that plays out. I'm really, really interested for Doctor Strange too. I know all of us really enjoyed the first one. I like those things that are like very different than they normally do. Not to say that I don't love the other Marvel stuff, but when they kind of like, take a step away from like, the box that the Marvel stuff's normally in, I really do enjoy that stuff. And that's why I really enjoyed this, because it was like basically putting Marvel into like sitcoms from like the 50s all the way to today, and there was nods at like all the great sitcoms throughout the years. It was so fun, and it was like so different.
You look at it, in that end movie when she's, back when she was a little girl, and they open up the chest with all the DVDs in there, and those were the DVDs she was reliving.
Like you get it then, yeah.
So you had your I Love Lucy moments. You had your, I don't remember the other.
Versus in DVDs. January when this thing was just coming out, everybody was like, "What is this show?"
And the amount of crap people, gave for the first 2 episodes.
I feel like this show is going to be.
I'm not going to watch this.
I feel like this is going to be incredible on a rewatch.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're gonna catch more things for sure. It's hard because, especially with shows like this, you spend so much time figuring out where they're trying to go, and you don't appreciate it in the moment. I feel like with a second watch, you really get to do that.
Yep, definitely.
Agree. Totally agree. Yeah. But I'm curious to see where this heads. How this is going to play into Doctor Strange too, because bringing her back in, I'd like to see where she's going with this.
For that movie. I saw something before. I forgot to mention on the news that Bandit Cumberbatch was talking about how much he loved working with Sam Raimi on it.
Oh wow!
I totally forgot that he was doing that movie, Sam Raimi.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that too. It's I think it's going to be great. I'm really excited for that. I mean, I'm really excited for everything they're doing. I mean, this Friday we get Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is like probably the second most. This coming Friday.
Tomorrow.
No, Jim. We released this on Monday, the 15th. God damn it, you're fired again. But yes, this Friday, the 19th, is Cap and Winter Soldier. I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Aside from Loki, I'll put it out there right now. Loki is definitely the show I'm most excited for, because I feel like it's going to be like super different. But this one looks awesome. I love this like buddy. Like I get such a Lethal Weapon vibe from this movie. Yeah. I can't wait for it. This show. Sorry.
I know.
But yeah. Oh, and you know what I also heard too? I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but I have heard that it sounds like it's going to be very likely that going forward in these movies that Ryan Reynolds is going to be kind of taking over the like Stan Lee cameos.
Really?
I hope that's true. It was a rumor I heard, but like that would be awesome if like randomly you see Deadpool in like every Marvel movie like in the background.
Or a Green Lantern dude, or some type of guy dressed in green.
No, I don't want to see Green Lantern again.
DC made me need money where they license that.
Yeah. All right, guys.
So I guess next week, the next show we'll talk about, this Falcon, and then also Justice League is coming out, so we'll talk about that one too.
Oh yeah, I forgot that's Thursday. So
yep,
it was already leaked a little bit. Did you guys hear about that?
I did. The Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, so it was for some people, if you went to go play Tom and Jerry, instead it played Justice League.
Justice League.
2 hours of it.
For how long? For 2 hours?
The first 2 hours of it, because Tom and Jerry's only 2 hours long, so it cuts off there.
Yep.
That's hilarious. We were watching Tom and Jerry too, but we couldn't get through it because it was so awful.
So I shouldn't watch it. I was debating it.
I'm skipping that one.
Yeah. All right, so we got a lot. We're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about on the 29th. So our third episode for March. Yes. All right, guys. Unless you have anything else, I think that's it for me.
I think so.
All right, guys. So if you're not already doing so, please follow us at LI Comic Guys and at Don't Feed the Geeks Podcast on Instagram, on Facebook, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, you can see all our names there. If you want to follow us individually, you can.
And there's a subscribe button down there. There's a subscribe button down there.
Yeah, if you can see it, it's really small. It's in the corner. Yep. It's subscribe. Here, comment. We want to hear it, what you're thinking. We want to see those thumbs up buttons. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dad.
Share. We'd love you to share too. Share it.
Tell your crazy uncle.
Enthusiasm.
Just let us know if there's anything you want to hear about. Oh, and I do want to give a shout out to one of our buddies. He's like, please give me a shout out, and you got it. Beyond_collecting. Thank you for being one of our loyal listeners.
Nice.
Thank you to all you other loyal listeners out there. And remember, until next time,
don't feed the geeks!